This is my video reflection for EDAD 762B, and I'm going to be talking about the things that I'm currently doing to promote trust and shared responsibility. I'm going to talk about how I facilitate and support the management of diversity within my teams, and I'm going to speak about how educational research has supported my professional learning culture. So to start with the first one, what steps am I taking to promote trust and shared responsibility? The first few years that I was at my school, the number one thing that I was trying to do was to build trust within my teams and to build trust, their trust in me. One of the books that I really read was, we've all been trained in a lot of different things. I have The Speed of Trust, but there was a book that was called Trust Matters, and that was one of the most impactful books that I think that I read coming into the principalship. It talked about the main components of trust and how you earn that. And one of the ones that stuck out to me was one of the best ways to earn trust is through demonstrating your competence. When you are competent and people understand that you do know what you're doing and you can make decisions, then it's easier for them to trust you. And so it took a while in the beginning. Sometimes you expect that, hey, I've been in the district a long time. I've worked in a lot of different capacities. I've met most of these people. And so you feel like you've earned their trust. But once you move up to a higher level of leadership, like the principal of the school, it's almost like you have to regain everyone's trust again in that new capacity. So that was something that I spent a lot of time doing in the beginning, was just trying to build their trust in me. And that meant I had to follow through. I had to know what I was doing. I had to have backup. I had to apologize and admit when I made mistakes. But in terms of where we are right now and building trust and shared responsibility, a lot of what we're doing right now is with regard to them participating in our MTSS teams and working together. The classified and certificated are both involved in those MTSS teams that we have during staff meetings. And so that's been a big part of it, having them solving problems, having them brainstorming, having them identifying issues in data and doing needs assessments. And it's no longer me doing a lot of it or leading a lot of it, but it's having the people who are on my team, my OSIC, my psych, my assistant principal, my SSC, they are all involved in the process of building capacity in others. So it really has been a journey at the beginning of this year, and I'm starting to see more ownership taking place. Another area that I really wanted to develop shared responsibility and shared leadership was with regard to the SIPSA. In the past few years, I've just done the SIPSA and then I've brought it to them. We've looked at all the goals. We've looked at the money allotments. We've looked at what our strategies are going to be. And for the most part, they've just rubber stamped it and said, yep, that's what we'll do. This year, I really wanted to involve them. So at one of the staff meetings, we began doing circle maps. We did one for math. We did one for ELA. In the center of the circle, I had them, I actually wrote our current data with regard to the CASP and what the goal we set for ourselves was for the CASP. And then on the outside, they had to put on Post-its the things that they feel that we as a staff should be doing so that we can increase those scores and meet our goals. So everybody was participating in that, every grade level, and now this Wednesday, we're going to be having another meeting with the classified staff joining us, where we're going to continue to evaluate that data. And then we're also going to look at our suspension data. We're also going to look at our chronic absenteeism data. And we're also going to think about it from the perspective of SEL and our SEL screeners and what we need to do to meet our goals in all of those areas. And then we're going to sort all of the Post-its, and then those will become integrated into our SIPSA strategies so that the staff really has buy-in because they participated in creating them. So that's something different that we're doing this year. How do I facilitate and support the management of diversity within my teams? We actually, last year, I brought in a presenter who we work with, who works with our district, and presented to the principals. And everybody on my staff took a DISC assessment. It's a personality assessment to see where you lie. What are your descriptors? And then we spent some staff meetings following up on that to identify what are some of the things that are strengths with regard to our personality and what things are areas we need to be careful of, areas that we need to be mindful of when we're communicating with other people. And so that's really helped when people have differences of opinions. They're able to listen to them. They're able to respect the opinions of others. So there are situations where there are diverse opinions that are shared. And if we reach a point where there's some difficulty, then as a facilitator, I can remind them about the DISC. I can remind them about, what our strategies are. I can step in and say, sounds like, you both are really saying the same thing. You're saying it in different ways. Or what are the components that we can bring into this? As a result of that training last year, we really haven't had a lot of dissension that people haven't been able to work out amongst their groups, where I really haven't had to intervene. But we all have a common language that when those moments arise, and I do, they know what I'm talking about, and I can lead them to something back that makes it that third point so that it's not a personal conversation. It's not a personal attack. We're addressing just our different personality and characteristics. So that's another thing that I do in order to also support the teachers. I know that I always make a point. We like to have fun. And so I try to plan at least one fun thing every month where my staff loves food. So it might be a food day. We've done Italian sodas. We've done little lemonades. We've done all kinds of things. We've played games. The first part of staff meeting is really just for them to socialize and get snacks so that they can feel comfortable with each other, because if they feel comfortable with each other socially, it makes their collaboration more powerful and rich. So then when we look at the research that supported my professional learning culture, there's a lot of things that I've read as principals. In fact, we just have completed a book study on schools on the move, where it talks about things that high-performing schools are able to do. I've got many, many things documented in this book, in terms of inquiry-based cycles that we're going to be beginning to use as we head further down this path. As we define our strategies for the SIPSA, we're really going to be looking at analyzing those using the inquiry based cycles that are in here to evaluate our growth next year and our progress, and identifying what our progress monitoring is going to look like. Another book that I've really used is, I told you about the trust book. We've read Leading for Change, and I went to the Learning Forward conference that gave a lot of information. It's powerful. If any leader has never been there, I highly encourage it. Right now, I'm in an 8-week session with Kim Marshall, where the entire thing is regarding feedback, because to be able to support my staff, to be able to continue to build that trust, I have to be a continuous learner, and I have to make sure that I am displaying my desire to always learn, grow, and improve, because that is what guides the culture here. And so it's a whole training on providing face-to-face feedback and how to look at evaluations in a different way and how to look at walkthroughs in a different way. So I'm learning a lot of strategies that I want to implement in terms of giving more specific growth mindset feedback to my teachers so that they can act on that and continuously improve their instruction. And then the last thing I would say is really NISL. I was part of the NISL program. I have passed that. And then I actually went to a facilitator training where we learned how to be facilitators of NISL in our current districts. And one of the things that we did is we did a case study that we hadn't done in the original NISL program. And in the case study, it talked about how a principal went into a low-performing school and he wanted to make changes that would be highly effective changes, but he knew he had to do it in a quick matter of time. And so he decided to utilize their PLC system that was already in place, and that was going to be the channel through which professional development would take place. Since we did not have any PLCs in place, we had grade level teams, but which it needed to start that way. They needed to start building relationships. They needed to get comfortable with each other. But now that they are, we're really digging into how can we develop it further? And so this year and next year, we're going to be doing a 2-year cycle of developing our PLCs. We're going to be incorporating the inquiry cycles. We're going to be incorporating data and progress monitoring in those inquiry cycles. And we're going to continue developing the PLCs, and the PLC Plus book that we're using is really guided on the work of Dr. Fisher and Fry. They created a handbook to developing PLCs, and that's what we are really linking all of our PD to with regard to that, with the idea that the stronger our PLCs become as they are looking at data and they are looking at issues that are happening in their communities, then that will be the driving force to getting PD, looking at PD, reading, talking, finding out, exploring, and will build our learning culture to be something that everybody automatically does without it needing to be driven by me or the MTSS team or my OSIC. So there's a lot that we're doing to try to build shared responsibility. There's a lot that we're doing to try to grow our teams. And there's a ton of research. I could show you thousands of books that I have sitting around here that I've used for all of it. So that concludes my reflection for EDAD 762B.